Well, the addiction to achievement episode. I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to call the overall podcast, video cast, or whatever I'm going to call this. But anyway, welcome. Welcome to the Amazing Mindsets studio, lab, whatever we're going to call it. This will be the first blooper reel. My daughter, who's my social media manager, will have lots of fun making bloopers out of this. So let's start with some of the bloopers. Let's just cut to the chase and get right out the gate. So I had this fancy microphone that I bought on Amazon, and it sat around for a long time because why? I procrastinated actually just making this video. I went to go plug it in and use it, and then as I did a little search, I realized it doesn't like working with phones or really tablet type devices. So, blooper number one. Whoop. Okay. Blooper number two, I have all these little pads, and I keep them lying around so I can take notes when I get ideas I need to get out of my head and get written down so my brain doesn't forget them. And as I open this up, it was not the pad that I intended to use today. Blooper number two. I'm sure there's a blooper number three. It'll come up, or I'll just end up doing it right now. But sometimes there's a bit of serendipity in the flubs and the mistakes and the bloopers. So when I opened up this pad, it had a note on here that I hadn't read in a little while. And I'm going to read it to you because I think it's fitting for this first video. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. The quality of our lives often depends on the quality of our habits. A long series of small wins and tiny breakthroughs equals success. So, I'm not really sure that that's one quote, many quotes, compiled things. I think it's an amalgamation of things. And I'm a big advocate of doing things repetitively, and they work into amazing results. Hence the initial comment I started about addiction to achievement, which I got from my friend Jason over at Run Try Bike. Link to him in the show notes. Hey, I can say show notes. But anyway, addiction to achievement. An addiction is just a habit, right? And we're addicted to all kinds of things. And I think that addiction just has a negative connotation, and there's lots of former addicts in the ultra endurance sport community. I'm an ultra marathoner, and people say, oh, you traded one addiction for the other. And my response is, yep. I somehow feel like that being addicted to running is so much better than being addicted to alcohol and drugs. And I don't see why people would make that comment, oh, you traded one addiction for the other, because like how hard is that to argue that one is better than the other? What if one person is addicted to meditation every morning? We don't call it an addiction, but let's just say what it is. If you do the same thing repetitively, it's a habit, and people could call it an addiction. And we throw that word around very often, and usually in a negative way. And in some instances, it can be detrimental. Your addictions can be detrimental. But I would challenge you that there are certain things that are clearly, if you're addicted to, they are going to end up being a negative impact on your life. There are certain things that you can be addicted to, and they can be a very positive thing in your life. Go back to the meditation. If you started a meditation practice and you became addicted to it, and you did it every single day, every morning when you woke up, or every evening when you went to bed, or both, I guarantee you would find a level of peace and inner calm that you didn't have before you adopted that habit, aka addiction. So These changes, as I talked about in the quote earlier, that seem small and insignificant at first can compound and become something massive. So the sticking, one of the things that is in the quote, remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them. So I was talking to a new friend of mine recently, and she said to me, as I was describing my story of why I started running, I have been sober, as many of you know, for over 6 years now. And when I got sober this time, this most recent time, and this is where the sticking comes in, I have gotten sober in my life for, seriously, let's say for a length, more than a year. Probably at least 4 and I think 5 times in my life where I've decided that alcohol and that addiction was not healthy for me, and I put it aside and didn't touch it for over a year, 4 or 5 times. And this last time I was describing the story to this friend of mine, and I said I needed something to make it stick. I had been sober for 7 years previously, thought I could, socially drink again, went back and just it took several years, but that's what it ended up becoming. And so this time I decided I needed something to stick, something to help me make it stick. About a year and a half in, I didn't have anything, and I decided I'm at this place where my head's clear enough now. I can make this decision to implement something into my life that will help me stay sober, make that sobriety stick for the long term. So I started running. I'd never really run in my life. I had run a little bit in a previous round of sobriety, but didn't really get much further than running a 10K. Wasn't super consistent with it. It was probably like a 6-month window. And so I said, I'm going to take up running again because it seemed to be good and healthy for me. And I thought, well, let's see if I can create a new habit of running. It'll keep me active, good for my cardiovascular, good for my health. It will burn off some of the anxious energy, as I've shared with many of you before. I've been depressed with anxiety disorder and depressive tendencies, and it'll help with that. I was pretty sure it would. And it will give me a goal, something I can work towards, just to have a habit. I'm going to go run. And shortly into my run, I decided I'm going to go run a half marathon. So this resonated with this friend of mine, and she said something about me talking about coming up with a way to make it stick. Stuck with her, pun intended. I don't think she actually said stuck with her, but it resonated with her. And it got me thinking. And since that conversation I had with her about a week ago, this is pun intended. It has stuck with me. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about what I do, how I do things, and the successes, addiction to achievement, how I have managed to be successful even while I was still drinking, and then to go to new levels of achievement after I got sober. So it just got me thinking about this idea of like habits and addiction. They're very similar, very fine line. And it's going to be misunderstood no matter what your habit is. If you are ritualized, and when people tell me, oh, it's easy for you, Mike, you're disciplined, I say, whoa, we all have a certain level of discipline. If you spend 7, 8 hours a day scrolling on your phone, if you spend 4, 5, 6 hours an evening staring and binging Netflix, I'd argue you're pretty dang disciplined about staring at social media or staring at Netflix. It is a discipline. Whether you think it's an easier one or not, let's just be honest about it. The things that are easy, you can make habits easier for one reason or another. But if you take a larger look at your situation, your life, socially, financially, spiritually, whatever it may be, and you choose to be disciplined to something you think is going to add value, accretive to your goals, you're going to have to do certain things to make those habits stick. And so what I've said to people is that I don't know that I'm any more disciplined than anybody else, but what I am, I know thyself. And one of the biggest benefits of sobriety and running for me is that I've really grown to get to know myself. Hours and hours and hours on the trails, running in the mountains of Southern California, Colorado, Arizona, alone with nothing but me and my own thoughts. And what I've come to realize is that I don't know that I'm that much more disciplined than anybody else. I just know myself really well, and I know what my weaknesses are. And I know if I have a running regimen, and I'm going to run every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Saturday, and every Sunday, and that is my schedule and that is my plan, I know if I skip a day, I get lazy, that I have the discipline to stop the whole thing. And so for me, I create the environment and the surroundings around me to give me the best chance at success for what I want to achieve. And that's what I love doing for not just me. I love doing this for companies. I love doing this for people. I love helping people build an environment within their own individual parameters, their own limitations, their own struggles, challenges, their own vices. It's just getting to know yourself well enough and being honest with yourself to know where your weaknesses are, maybe even your shortcomings, to know those temptations that are going to come at you, and how to set up and craft a schedule, an environment that is as conducive as you can make it to give you the best chance at success. So, to me, that has a lot to do with mindset. And there's a lot of talk on the internet today about mindset. Recently seen some things, and everything from people don't believe in mindset, people bashing mindset coaches, bashing mindset mentors. You have to have, some certification, some degree, some this, some that to be a mindset anything. And what I say is, you know what? Who was the first lawyer? Right? There had to have been a first, right? And so after that first, and up until society had created some structured program, what did they do? What did they call it? It's my understanding now that you can take the bar without even going to law school. I think I just saw somewhere that the state of Washington, you can become a lawyer without even taking the bar now. Don't quote me on that, but I think I read that somewhere recently that was recent. But, but how you think about things, how your mind approaches the situation that you're in at the moment, and how it perceives what that situation is going to be like, because you know your own mind. You understand your mindset, you understand your weaknesses, and you prepare ahead of time for them. That is what is going to give you the opportunity for the best chance at success, at achieving the goals that you're setting forth. So, welcome to Amazing Mindsets. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Look at me, 15 minutes on my first one, and the only person who watched the whole thing is me. So, and it'll be a blooper reel. Listen, I hope that I've inspired some of you to make positive change in your life. If you want to learn more about me, click the link below, take you to my website. You can read more about me and subscribe, and I'll put more of these up, and hopefully you'll find some value and some benefit in them. And hey, you can say you saw the first Addiction to Achievement show. on Amazing Mindsets. Have an amazing day.